Hello, how's everyone doing today? I'm here with a man who needs no introduction, so I won't give one. Hello, how are you, Walter?
Pretty good. Thanks for the kind introduction.
No problem. So, you know me, I love drama, so there's been some. I know, well, let's talk about it. So, I know recently Hans Happe, who I'm personally not a big fan of myself, but I know I wrote an article criticizing both you and your position on Israel. And then I saw some interview with Michael Malice where apparently I heard that the Mises this Institute decided to remove you as a fellow because of your position. And then I spoke to a friend of mine who agreed with that. Um, I don't agree with that position. I do think that your position in Israel is wrong, but my view, and we can talk about it, is uh, you can have a position that's wrong. You know, it's called a think tank, and to me, a think tank is people think. Um, the name of the institute is called the Mises Institute. Mises himself supported military conscription, and that is not very libertarian. So if people are going to be purists, maybe you should change the name of your institute. Um, but you know, and because I sort of want to live in a world where people can sort of just be like, I think you're wrong on this issue, and here's why. But people seem to have this view where people take things very personal and be like, you're an awful person for having that position. So what's your response? Because that seems to have been the attitude, unfortunately. Even people who have known you for years, that seems to have been the position. It's very immature.
I couldn't agree with you more, and we will get into why you and I diverge on our views on Israel.
So,
But that's a separate issue and an important issue, and we should discuss that too.
sure.
But right now, what's on the table is not that, but what to do when there's any disagreement among libertarians who've been buddies for, I don't know, not years, but decades.
Sure.
And you're wrong when you say that this occurs often. It doesn't occur often. It only occurs in one case, Israel. There are many other issues where we disagree. For example, abortion. Murray Rothbard is pro-choice. Ron Paul is pro-life. You can't get two more highly credentialed libertarians than that. If you can, it's news to me. I've never heard of any better libertarians than those two. And
Right.
yet they're 180 degrees apart on that issue. And yet never a harsh word has been heard either between the two of them. Neither one calls the other a bloodthirsty monster or anything like that. And nobody else called either of them bloodthirsty monsters, which is roughly what Hans Hoppe called me. I might not get the exact words, but unhinged maniac or
Some I think it was, but sure.
something like that. But
Right.
nobody called either of them that. They didn't call each other that.
Right.
And neither of and both are heavily associated with the Mises Institute, and neither has been withdrawn or kicked out or fired or anything like that.
Right.
And that's only one issue. There are other issues where we disagree. Immigration. Many libertarians are open borders. Other libertarians are not closed borders, but regulated borders. Murray Rothbard even changed his mind on that one. In one of my articles, I wrote Rothbard 1 had this view, open borders, and Rothbard 2 had that view, regulated borders. So if Murray can change his mind, it's a very complicated issue. Other cases where we disagree is voluntary slavery. Should I be able to sell myself into slavery in order to save my son's life? Well,
Right.
some people say it's a valid contract. Other people say it's not. And yet, never a harsh word, never a kicking out of anything. And then there's also, what else is there? Reparations to blacks for slavery. Some libertarians think that this is justified. Others think that the statute of limitations is long gone by. So it's only with Israel, and I call it Israel derangement syndrome, not because we diverge. It's a complicated issue. Rational people will disagree, but because there's such animosity.
Mhm.
And there's no other animosity in any other intra-libertarian. There's plenty of animosity against libertarians from non-libertarians, but among us libertarians, there's no animosity with that one exception. And I think that that's highly problematic. I
Mhm.
think that we're scholars, and the only way you get to the truth with a capital T, or at least 1 billionth of an inch closer to the truth, is through dialogue, debate, argument. Hans Hoppe has done more than anyone else to, how shall I say it, to put in a foundation for libertarianism.
Right.
And you know what his foundation is, of course? Argument. His argument from argument or argumentation ethics is brilliant, magnificent. And what he's saying is, look, the only way we're going to get any truth is through argument. You know, if one person shoots the other, they don't win the argument. They just shoot the other person. And what it must be true to have an argument? Well, private property rights, the non-aggression principle, etc. So he's a big fan of argument, if I could put words in his mouth. And yet, after he wrote that blistering attack on me, I offered to argue with him.
Right.
I said, Hans, hey, we're libertarians, we're scholars, let's have a debate. He didn't even respond. And then I wrote an article. And by the way, I should mention Alan Fuderman. Hans did not just attack me, he attacked me and Alan. Alan is a many-time co-author of mine on Israel issues. But he's a young kid, and I'm more famous than him, mainly because I've been at it a lot longer than him. He's, I don't know, 25 or so.
Yeah.
So I offered to argue with Hans, and he didn't even condescend to respond. I offered to argue with Tom DiLorenzo.
Right.
Tom, the one who stripped me from my senior fellowship at the Mises Institute, which I've had ever since its inception in the early 1980s, wouldn't respond. Ryan McMakin also attacked me on this grounds of, what was it, micro-libertarianism and macro-libertarianism, uninterested in arguing. So I just write articles saying why I think they're wrong, and I try to argue with them in print, even though they won't argue, and they don't respond to what I said. So I agree with you entirely.
Right. So both of them didn't respond to you.
I'm sorry?
So neither one of them was willing to debate you.
None of the three of them. Hoppe, DiLorenzo, and McMakin have been my main three critics from the Mises Institute. I have to give Michael Rechtenwald credit. Michael Rechtenwald has agreed to debate me, but he is not part of the Mises Institute. But he is a scholar, and I take my hat off to him, and we're trying to arrange some sort of debate. But I agree with you entirely that we're scholars. The only way we get to the truth is through debate and arguing and scholarly activity. And name calling is not scholarly activity. So these three people, and also Michael Rechtenwald, are off the rails, and they're not acting appropriately. And I can't help but think that people like Hayek and Mises and Rothbard, who are now in heaven, and are looking down on this and are saying, tut, 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 you guys are misbehaving. Yes, you want to disagree with Walter? That's fine. No problem there. But the way you're treating him is unscholarly, and you're a disgrace to scholarship.
Right. Right. Why do you think when it comes to Israel, they have this visceral reaction, that they're allowing disagreement or intellectual things on other issues, but when it comes to Israel, they have Israel derangement syndrome, as you call it?
Well, I don't know why it is, but I know one reason why it is not, and that is anti-Semitism. They are not anti-Semites.
Right.
How do I know they're not anti-Semites? Well, they've known I've been Jewish for years, and
right.
till 8 months ago or 6 months ago or whenever it was, there was no problem. I was a fair-haired boy. Well, not much hair, but what little I have was fair. And,
Right.
and also, Mises was Jewish, and Rothbard was Jewish. And if they were anti-Semites, they wouldn't name their institution. Uh, is there some sort of noise coming?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna. Yeah. Continue. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Continue. I'm gonna get it to be paused in a second. Hold on. I'm just gonna pause it. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right.
No problem. These things happen.
All right.
We're all imperfect.
All right. Anyways, sorry, continue.
So what I was saying is, it's not anti-Semitism.
Right.
The Mises Institute really could be called the Mises Rothbard Institute.
Right.
I think no one would disagree with that at the Mises Institute. If it were more accurate in terms of naming the people after whom the Mises Institute is dedicated,
Right.
it would not be the Mises Institute, it would be the Mises Rothbard Institute or the Rothbard Mises Institute or something like that. They're both Jews. So how can it be anti-Semitic? David Gordon, Peter Klein are Jews, and they're still fair-haired boys. So to answer your question, why Israel derangement syndrome on the part of the Mises Institute people, and not just the Mises Institute people, a lot of libertarians.
Right.
Dave Smith, the new guy, I forget his name is Chance, who is the presidential candidate for Libertarian Party.
I've seen Dave Smith debate people on this topic.
Well, they're bitterly opposed to Israel. So the question is why? Oh, I see. The question is not why are they bitterly opposed to Israel. The question is why won't they even debate? Why do they treat it so differently? And I can only speak for Hans and Tom and Ryan from the Mises Institute. And all I say is not anti-Semitism. Why it is?
Right.
They have Israel derangement syndrome,
Right.
and I don't know why they do.
Right. Well, Dave Smith's Jewish, so obviously no anti-Semitism there. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's unfortunate. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When I was arguing with one of my friends said that they thought your position was not libertarian and that Mises Institute is libertarian, so they should remove you. And I said, well, I think that's silly because even if we concede that your position's not libertarian, so what? If you're libertarian on 95% of issues, are we just going to say the hell with you? I mean, I think that's silliness.
Yeah,
right.
It would be just like saying that Murray Rothbard and Ron Paul can't both be libertarians because they disagree on a very important issue.
Right, right.
And here Ryan McMakin makes a distinction between, micro-libertarianism and macro-libertarianism. Micro-libertarianism is the stuff that all libertarians agree. We shouldn't have rent control. We shouldn't have minimum wage. We should have free trade. We shouldn't have victimless crimes. That's micro-libertarianism. And they, even my bitterest enemies concede or acknowledge that I'm good on those issues. Fine. Yeah. But then there's macro-libertarianism but macro-libertarianism is not just Israel. It's also immigration. It's also voluntary slavery. It's also abortion. And we disagree on those issues too.
Right.
So Ryan McMakin's thesis is highly problematic.
Right. All right. Cool. So now maybe we can get to some of the disagreement. So I didn't actually read your book, The Classical Liberal Case Against... Oh, sorry, The Classical Liberal Case for Israel. But one, I think, hint that is probably not very libertarian is that Netanyahu wrote the foreword. So I think if a prime minister of Israel is writing a foreword to your book, probably not very libertarian, just by intuition. Call it women's intuition, but, to quote the Naked Gun, but, that just based on that. I'll tell you my view on Israel. basically. My view.
Let me just comment on that before.
Yeah, go ahead.
On Netanyahu, and then I don't want to have to come back to it.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Netanyahu is enough to talk about for a minute or two.
Sure.
Look, Netanyahu is famous. You can't argue with me there.
Sure.
And the purpose of somebody writing a forward is to sell more books.
No, I understand. But if I had Trump write the forward to my book, it's probably not very libertarian.
Right. Look, if Trump would write a forward to my next book, I would be happy. He's famous.
No, I understand.
And you want the purpose of a forward is not necessarily to have a libertarian, but to sell books.
I understand.
And Netanyahu is pretty libertarian on some issues compared to the other Israelis.
Right.
Israel was started by a bunch of socialists.
Right.
Netanyahu is pretty free enterprise.
Right.
And I would say he is certainly libertarian on Hamas, even though that would be a substantive disagreement between the two of us. I think that if anything, he was too soft on Hamas. He should have been a little tougher on them. So Netanyahu is no Murray Rothbard.
Sure.
Nobody is Murray Rothbard. Murray Rothbard was unique, but I think he was pretty libertarian. And I have no compunction about having him write the foreword to the book, and I'm honored that he did.
Okay, fair enough. So my view on Israel is the following. I said once, I think, when we were talking about Israel before, a pox on both their houses. To me, I think the correct position is I view the situation in Israel as sort of a turf war. What you have in Israel is two rival gangs who want to control the other gang and have made it very clear that if they're in power, they'd oppress the other gang. So to me, it's like the blood and the Crips. If you say I'm pro-Israeli or I'm pro-Palestinian, that's like someone saying I'm pro-blood or I'm pro-Crips. To me, the correct position is, to hell with both of you, you both suck. It's like if someone's like, the Democrats are like the Republicans suck, the Democrats are like the Republicans suck, I'm like, you're both right. So to me, the correct position on the whole, are you pro-Palestinian or are you pro-Israeli? They're both terrible. I'm an atheist and I'm a libertarian. I don't support governments. And if governments exist, I support secular governments. I don't support a theocratic state. And it's very clear that if Israel is in power, they want to impose a Jewish state on those who aren't Jews. And it's very clear that if the Palestinians are in power, they want to impose an Islamic state on those that aren't Islamic and institute Sharia law. So neither side believes in individual rights or in liberty. So I think it makes sense to oppose both.
Okay, before I answer it, look, I'm a professor. I'm not allowed to answer questions directly. You have to go circuitously.
Right.
First of all, before I answer that, let me just say that I'm going to enjoy this conversation.
Okay, me too.
Why am I going to enjoy this conversation? Because we're old friends.
Yep.
And you're a bright guy.
Yep.
And I can learn from you, and hopefully you can learn from me.
Yep.
And there's not going to be any name calling.
No.
And if there is a name calling, it'll be just kidding around, as we sometimes do.
Sure.
It'll be a friendly debate, and I like friendly debates, and I even like debates that are unfriendly, as long as they're civil and polite.
Yes.
And from you, I don't expect civility and politeness. I expect that, but in addition, I expect friendliness, which is even better.
Likewise.
So I'm delighted to be here with you.
Likewise.
Okay, now that I've been circuitous, let me.
My feathers. Go ahead.
Let me just say that if I had to summarize your position, it's Tweedledee versus Tweedledum.
Yeah.
And there ain't no difference between them. And since they're both highly problematic, the hell with both of them, or a pox on both their houses. Okay, that would be, I think, a fair assessment of your view. It's good to put it on the table so that you're clear that I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, Murray Rothbard wrote an essay, something called Peace in the Middle East, or something in the Middle East. I think it was in 1967. And he warned against what you're saying. Why did he warn against what you're saying? He called it sectarianism. And he started off his essay by saying, look, there are these socialists. And every time you say anything, they say socialism is why the problem, the lack of socialism is why we have the problem. Capitalism is evil. And they would just say that for everything, anything. And Murray said, look, we libertarians don't want to be like that. We shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't be sectarians. We shouldn't be Johnny One Note, if I can put words in Murray's mouth.
Okay.
We should be a little bit more sophisticated. We should be a little bit more able to make fine distinctions. Yes, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, you can't distinguish. The Blood and the Crips, they're practically synonyms for each other.
Yeah.
The Republicans and the Democrats, I would diverge there. I would say the Republicans. I just wrote another essay in the Wall Street Journal, something to the effect that libertarians should vote for Donald Trump in the purple states.
Yeah.
Because in the red states, like Texas and Florida, Donald won't need our vote. He's going to win big. And in the blue states, like California and Massachusetts, he's going to lose big. And therefore, if we help him out, he's not going to need our help. However, in Arizona and Pennsylvania, Virginia, maybe Michigan, states that have close elections, our 1 or 2% can really help. And I gave the example of, what was it, in the last election in Arizona, Joe Jorgensen got 50,000 votes, and Donald lost by 10,000. So if all the libertarians had, or virtually all the libertarians had voted for Donald, he would have won Arizona, which is, something important. And I claim that Donald is better than Biden as a libertarian. First of all, Donald has promised to pardon Ross Ulbricht. And,
elected.
And every libertarian cries bitter tears with the way Ross Ulbricht has been treated.
Yeah, but do you think he's actually going to do it? He had 4 years to do it.
Look, he promised he would do it, and Biden didn't promise he would do it, and Biden and Trump didn't promise the last time around. But this time around, he promised, and he also promised one libertarian in his cabinet. Did Biden promise anything like that? Of course not. Now, it's true that Donald is no Milton Friedman. Donald is no Hayek. Donald is not for free trade.
Did you say Milton Friedman?
But he's closer than Biden on economic issues.
Yeah.
He's much lower taxes, not low taxes, but lower taxes than Biden, less woke. So I would disagree with you if you said that he and Biden are Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and also the Democrats and Republicans.
Well, I think Trump is better because more people hate him. and I always think you want the least popular guy to be president.
Okay, so there you're going against your thesis. You're supporting me.
My thesis isn't you shouldn't make distinctions between things. That's not my thesis.
Well, no, your thesis now is that they're equal, and you just came along.
Well, I never said they're equal.
You did. You did. If you go back to our discussion of 5 minutes ago, you're on tape. You said that the Democrats and the Republicans were equal or indistinguishable. I forget your words, but something like that.
They both suck.
And now they both suck, which means they're equal. And now you came up with a great reason for Donald, namely more people hate him.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get to Israel and Hamas.
Sure.
Again, I don't think it's Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I don't think it's Blood and Crips.
Okay.
And I don't even think it's Democrat and Republican, because Democrat and Republican, you make a case that they're equal. But here, there's no case. Here it's, I won't say night and day, but twilight versus high noon.
Yeah.
Let's consider the issue of purposefully targeting civilians.
Okay.
Who purposely targets civilians? Not Israel. Israel, whenever it wants to kill a civilian, or rather, whenever it wants to have collateral damage, no, that's not the right way to put it. Whenever it wants to attack Hamas, what it does is it first sends out leaflets. It sends out leaflets saying, look, we're going to bomb here. And we realize there are a lot of civilians there. Why are there civilians there? Because they put their rocket launchers in the middle of a hospital, or they put it in the middle of a school, or they put it in the middle of a residential area.
Right.
And why do they do that? Well, they embed themselves among the civilians, and they use them as shields. Now,
Right.
here is Adam Smith. This is an Adam Smith doll.
Yeah.
And I'm now, where's my knife? Here's my knife. It's a pen, but I'm now going to attack you.
Yeah.
Kill Daniel.
Yeah.
And I've got Adam Smith right in front of me.
Yeah.
And he's a lot bigger than this.
Yeah.
And you've got a gun.
Yeah.
And you're a good shot, but the only way you can defend yourself against my onrushing with this knife to kill you is to shoot right through Adam Smith and me. He's collateral damage.
Yeah.
Now, if you shoot me and him, are you a murderer? No. You're engaging in self-defense. Who really murdered Adam Smith? Me. I'm the bad guy. Now, I'm Hamas here. You're Israel. What Hamas does is it puts rocket launchers in the middle of a hospital, and then Israel, what is Israel going to do? What are you going to do to defend yourself? You have to shoot me. What is Israel going to do? It's got to take out that rocket launcher, because the rocket launcher is just aimed indiscriminately at civilians. So Israel is very, very different than Hamas in terms of purposely aiming to kill civilians, which is a non-kosher kind of a thing to do. It's a war crime. Now, yes, Israel does kill civilians, but it's only as collateral damage because Hamas is using civilians as a shield. Now, if you can't see the difference between the two, and I'm sure you can.
I can.
Well, then the Tweedledee and Tweedledum blood and Crip hypothesis is wrong.
Yeah.
Israel is on a moral level, on a moral scale, on a libertarian scale. Israel is the good guy, and Hamas is the bad guy.
Well, I think they're both sort of the bad guy, because Israel knows they're going to kill innocent people. I mean, look, if there's a bad guy who goes, even if there's 10 bad guys and they go into a movie theater with a bunch of innocent people and they embed themselves in among the civilian populace, and you bomb that movie theater, to me, you're a bad guy. It doesn't matter that you killed 10 terrorists. You killed, 1,000 innocent people as well. To me, you're a bad guy, because you've killed a bunch of innocent people along with those good people.
Well, then you're a bad guy for killing me. Now, look, we stipulate I'm the bad guy. I've got a knife. This is a pen. This is a knife.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you. I'm the bad guy.
Right.
Adam Smith right here.
Yeah.
And do you admit that you're the bad guy for shooting me through Adam Smith? You can't. You have to agree that you are in the right. You're engaging in self-defense, and I'm attacking you. I'm yelling, "Kill Daniel!"
I think the question is, do I have a right to knowingly, if I know I'm going to kill innocent people to defend myself, how many innocent people do I have a right to kill in order to save myself?
Well, what you do, if you're Israel, and you know that there's a rocket launcher in the middle of a hospital, is you say, hey, look, we're going to be bombing this hospital in 2 days. And you better get out of there, because we have to bomb it, because it's a goddamn rocket launcher, and they're shooting innocent people, just like I was trying to kill you. And they have the decency to say, we're going to give you 2 days, and we're telling you we're going to bomb this place. You don't do that for us. when October 7th, 2023 came about, they didn't send leaflets. When's the last time Hamas ever sent out a leaflet saying, we're going to bomb this place because Israel is an invasive army? And yes, there'll be innocent people, but hopefully the innocent people will now have 2 days or a day or whatever it is, or an hour to get out of there. Hamas never did anything like that.
Well, they have in their charter they want to kill all the Jews, so that's giving them warning.
Well, that's a good point.
It depends how you phrase it, but I mean,
no, I think that's a magnificent point. The difficulty with it is just a general threat. They don't say we're going to kill people in this here kibbutz on Tuesday at noon. They don't say that. And you should all get away from this particular kibbutz or this particular, what was it, a music fair or something like that?
But I mean,
let me get back to that point. In the covenant of the Hamas, they say we're going to kill all the Jews.
Right.
Where is it written in any Hebrew covenant that we're going to kill all the Arabs? Not anywhere.
No, it's not. That's true.
Now look, what happened in 2005 was there were Jews in Gaza.
Yeah.
And the Israeli government compelled them to leave, which was unlibertarian. They compelled them to leave, and they integrated them in the rest of Israel. And they, in effect, gave Hamas a Palestinian state.
Yeah.
And what they really wanted was to make Gaza like the Hong Kong of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And all sorts of cement was imported in there, and metal and money. And what did they do with that? Did they build hotels? No. Did they build desalination plants? No. Did they build transportation corridors? Yes. Underground, not to transport people, but to make it easier to kill Jews.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is not Tweedledee and Tweedledum. This is not Blood and Crips. This is terrorists and murderers and atrocity people. These are evil people, and Israel is imperfect. Yes, sure. But to say that they're the same and indistinguishable, I think goes against what Murray Rothbard was asking for us, not to be sectarian. See, the reason we call this a classical liberal case for Israel, not an anarchist case, even though we're both anarcho-capitalists, me and Alan and you.
Yeah.
Because from an anarcho point of view, yes, they're both gangs. Israel is a gang, Hamas is a gang.
Yeah.
End of story. But we wanted to probe deeper. We wanted to see if there are any distinctions that can be made. And you can't make a distinction from the ANCAP point of view because all states are evil. So we had to lower ourselves in the libertarian firmament and minarchism or classical liberalism.
Right.
And here, governments are justified.
Right.
If they limit themselves like Ayn Rand or Robert Nozick or
I know the objectivist position when it comes to war. Ayn Rand famously said that there's no such thing as innocent civilians in war. That when a country is attacked, that country has a right to defend itself, and the country that attacks, that's the fault of that country that attacks them. But the problem is, in the real world, if you just blame the country that attacks, then that just leads to wars of attrition where neither side is worried about collateral damage on the other side, and then they can just say, well, blame the side that attacked me, and then they don't even have to care. There was an interview recently on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan was talking to some Israeli guy in charge, and he's like, how many Hamas people have you killed? And the guy's like, we've killed like 15,000 or 10,000. He gave like a number. And he's like, how many civilians have you killed? And he's like, I don't know. But we've made sure to minimize civilian casualties. And he's like, how do you know if you can't even give me a number? And And he has a fair point. He's like, if you can't even give me, a ballpark of how many civilians have been killed, but you can give me a precise number of how many Hamas people you've killed, how do you know you've minimized civilian casualties? And if you just have this mentality of every death we have is the fault of Hamas, blame them, you have very little incentive to minimize civilian casualties because you're just going to pin it on Hamas. And so I think that's a bad mentality to have.
Well, I can't speak for this person, and I certainly can't speak for Ayn Rand, and I disagree with Ayn Rand, who said that when you're at war, all's fair, or nothing's off the table, you can just kill them all. I disagree with her, and Israel disagrees with her. Israel made an attempt and is making an attempt to save civilian lives. Look, if Hamas were to surrender tomorrow and release all of its hostages, there would not be a single other person killed.
Well, that's not true because they've invaded Rafah and they said their goal is not the release of Hamas. I mean, look, I'm going to be a little controversial, but I think they should. I think the Israeli government should act as if the hostages are dead and sort of just say, it sucks that they were kidnapped, but it's not worth all these more people dying for it. It's not worth more people dying to save these few hostages. We're just going to act like they're dead and fuck them. That is what I think the Israeli government position should be. I don't think thousands of innocent people should die to save a few more hostages, as heartless as that might seem to some people. But
well, let me finish my sentence. What I was starting to say, that if Hamas surrendered tomorrow and released all of its hostages, there'd be not one further Gazan killed. On the other hand, if Israel were to surrender and release all of its prisoners in its jails, there'd be no more Israelis. There'd be no more Jews in the Middle East because, as you mentioned, the covenant of Hamas is to kill them all. Mm-hmm. Now, this bespeaks a gigantic difference. Let me say that again. If Hamas surrenders, no more Arabs die. If Israel surrenders, they all die. October 7th is repeated 10,000 times.
Right.
Honestly, if Israel surrendered and said, okay, look, you guys won, they would kill them all. Whereas if Hamas surrendered, they wouldn't kill any. Yes, Israel has...
it's not that they wouldn't kill any. They invaded Rafah and they say they want to...
Let me just finish the sentence.
Sorry.
If Israel does have the death penalty on its books, but so far in 80 years, it's only executed one person.
Yeah.
What's his name? Adolf Eichmann. Just one person. The odds are that they would not execute any of those surrendering people. Whereas if Israel surrendered, they'd kill them all. So this is not Tweedledee, Tweedledum. This is a gigantic difference.
Okay, fair. Sure. I'm not saying that they're the same.
Well, you started out that way. I'm glad you're changing your mind.
Fair point. But what I'm saying is that a lot of innocent people have been killed. And I think that, I don't know, I guess I'm a bit of a pacifist when it comes to war. And I think that, I think you have a right to defend yourself, but I don't think you have a right to kill a lot of innocent people in the midst of defending yourself.
You were killing Adam Smith.
Huh?
You were killing Adam Smith.
Yeah, but he would kill a million Chinese to save his pinky, so I think it's fair. Didn't he say that, right? Well, no, he wouldn't do that, right? He would sacrifice his pinky to save a million Chinese, right?
Well, so, I don't know about pinkies in Chinese. All I know is that when you use someone as a shield, you, the shield wielder, are responsible for their deaths, not the defensive person. Hamas is using those people as a shield. There's a wonderful cartoon, and it had two fighters, an Israeli fighter and a Hamas fighter, and two baby carriages. And the two Israeli gunmen were shooting at each other. Only the Gazan had the Arab baby carriage in front of him, and the Israeli had the Jewish baby carriage behind him.
Yeah.
just a beautiful cartoon indicating a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
The Israeli people do not put their rocket launchers in the middle of a school or in the middle of a hospital. They just don't. And they don't put them in the middle of a residential area. Hamas does that. Right. And what do you expect the Jews to do if they're going to defend themselves? To say, oh, well, look, it's off limits because the rocket ship is coming from the rocket launcher, not the rocket ship. The rocket launcher is coming from a hospital. Therefore, it's off limits. No, they can't do that. That's suicide. That would be as if you were willing to let me kill you because I have Adam Smith here in front of me.
Right. So how many Adam Smiths does it justify to kill to save myself? Can I kill 1 million Adam Smiths to save myself if you're coming to me?
Well, look, you said that this Israeli spokesman didn't know how many civilians were killed. In a war, nobody knows exactly how many people were killed. He doesn't know how many Hamas fighters were killed either. But right. Israel does its level best to try to minimize it, and Hamas doesn't. So look, I don't have to prove in this discussion that right. Israel is great. I just have to prove that they're better and distinguishable from Hamas, because you started out with a pox on both their houses. They're equal, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, blood, Crips, whatever. That is a wrong position, and I hope that I've convinced you out of it, that Israel is better. Is Israel perfect? No.
Well, there's an expression, and I disagree, as I like to say sometimes, the enemy of my enemy can still be my enemy.
That's true.
So, the enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. So, I never, I think, made the claim that Hamas is on equal moral footing as the Israeli government. I think.
But you did. You used blood and Crips. You used pox on both their houses. And it's not just you. There are a lot of libertarians that take that position that it's equal. Look, blood and Crips are synonyms. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are synonyms.
Yeah, fair point. But fine. Maybe that wasn't the best. But they're both fine. Maybe they're not equal, but they're both killing innocent people, whether intentionally or not. And so, and in that sense, that's.
They're both killing innocent people. I agree.
Right, and
one of them is killing innocent people because the other is using them as a shield. What do you expect the other people to do? To not kill innocent people? I mean, it sounds horrible. We're libertarians, and to say that it's okay to kill innocent people is sort of like saying 2 + 2 is 5. It just sounds horrible. But what do you expect the Israelis to do when the Arabs use their own people as shields? Not to kill innocent people? No, they have to kill innocent people to save themselves in self-defense, just like you had to kill Adam Smith. I agree with you. It sounds horrible. Killing innocent people, and you're a libertarian? You're a bloodthirsty monster, as Hans Hoppe would say. But no, if you're a little bit more rational about this, you see that Hans is wrong. That it's okay to kill innocent people. Now, look, they're going to quote me. They're going to... Mark said it's okay to kill innocent people. Therefore, he's not a libertarian.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to say. They're not going to talk about the rest of it. But context is, and the context is important, even though, what's her name, Gay from Harvard, misused context.
Yeah.
Context is important. If I use Adam Smith as my shield, it's okay to kill him.
Right.
Even though he's innocent, because I'm responsible for his death.
I think you're also responsible for your own individual actions, though. So I think if you know that you know that someone is, look, I don't want the responsibility of having to kill an innocent person. So if I know I'm going to be in that position, I'm going to move, or I'm going to do what I can to just not,
No, too bad. You're stuck. You're in the room. Your back is at a wall. You can't run away. And I'm going to get you. I'm going to kill you. And
death is not the worst of all evils. So I die, but at least I'm not a murderer, I guess. I don't know.
No, I think you'd be a pacifist, and you wouldn't engage in self-defense. And one of the elements or the essence of libertarianism is the right to self-defense. I'm a murderer. I'm coming at you with a knife, and I'm going to kill you because you disagree with me and whatever. And
Yeah.
you have every right to shoot me. And if the only way you can get me is to go through this innocent person,
Yeah.
you have a right to go through this innocent person. Now, I admit it sounds horrible.
So I can kill 1,000 people to save myself.
Well, now that's an interesting question. How many? 1,000,000, 1,000, 10 million, what? And I would say as many as the enemy can capture and make shields out of, not otherwise.
So there's no limit. As many as necessary to save myself.
No, I didn't say that. I said as many as you can capture and make your shields. Now, if you're a great capturer and you can capture 100 people and surround yourself with this 100 people, and you're going to come get me, I'm going to shoot all 100 of you if that's the only way I can get you. Now, there has to be a limit because one person, forget about one person. Hamas has got, I don't know, 50,000 soldiers. How many shields can they get? Maybe 100,000 tops, 2 for each person. I don't know the number. Look, we're now getting into a very ticklish area called, what the hell is it called? Continuums.
Yeah.
We know that if you go to bed with a 5-year-old girl, you're a statutory rapist. We don't care that she says yes.
Pedophile more than a statutory rapist. Because I think statutory rapist is like bordering.
Let me just finish this train of thought.
Sure, go ahead.
We know that if you go to bed with a 5-year-old girl, you're a statutory rapist, even if she agrees.
Sure.
Because we don't think she's capable of any such agreement.
Right.
We know that if you go to bed with a 25-year-old woman and she agrees, whatever you are, you're not a statutory rapist, because we believe, our society believes, that a 25-year-old woman can make a decision as to whether to go to bed with you or not. Well, where do you draw the line? Should it be 15? Should it be 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there? I don't know. And I do know this, that you can't deduce the number from the principles of libertarianism, non-aggression, private property rights.
Well,
now, I'm going to punch you.
Yeah.
How close and in what context does the fist have to be near the chin for the defensive person to take action? Again, you can't say that it's 6 inches or a foot or... Now, look, in our context, we're friends. If I put my fist real close to you, you know I'm not going to hit you.
Right.
On the other hand, if we're in a dark alley and you see the light glinting off my watch and I'm a stranger and I'm attacking you, you can use physical defense. So you can't draw a line. So what I'm trying to say is that the continuum problem is prevalent everywhere. And when you ask, well, how many, shields can you kill?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the statutory rape age should be. I know it's somewhere around 17 or 18 or something like that would be reasonable. Maybe 16. I don't know. The problem is, if I say it's 17, there are girls who are 16 that are more mature than girls who are 18.
Right.
So
and there are women who are 30 and have Down syndrome or are severely mentally retarded that it also would be okay.
But we make a rule that there's a statutory rape age of 18. It's arbitrary. Now, when you ask me how many shields can you get, I say I don't know. It's a continuum problem.
Okay.
It's unfair for you to use a continuum problem to try to overturn the principle. The principle is, if you go to bed with an underage girl, you're a statutory rapist, and I don't know what the proper age is. And the principle is that if you kill shields, you're okay, and I don't know how many shields you can kill.
Okay, but you would agree that Israel isn't only killing shields. I mean, there have been cases where people have put up white flags, and there was a case even when they were some of the Israeli people who were kidnapped waving white flags, and they were gunned down by the IDF. Okay?
And you know what happens?
Yeah.
You know what happens when an Israeli soldier does something like that? They get punished by the Israeli government. And do you know what happens when somebody goes and kills an Israeli and maybe gets shot? They make him a martyr and they give a payment to his family. and they name a street after him. Do you see the gigantic difference?
How do you know the person who was punished?
You're right. You're right. When an Israeli soldier misbehaves, and it occurs, people are human. Then the IDF is not perfect, but when they make a mistake like that, they are punished. They're tried by an Israeli court. Namely, they're a civilized country. Whereas Hamas is not a civilized country, because when they do the same thing, and you can't deny that they do the same thing, they don't get punished. They get exalted. A gigantic difference.
Right. Sure. I mean, sure. I mean, I will. I'll also say this. I mean, I think. I mean, look. I mean, I think. I mean, you've even had people in the Israeli government who've said that they were fans of Hamas because they created friction that prevented a two-state solution. So to me, this is sort of a lot of like they're creating, violence and gangs against each other to sort of just pretend later to be the heroes, which is often what governments do. So do they really oppose Hamas, or do they just fight them when it's convenient so later they can drum up some war effort, which is what states are known to do?
Look, this is an excellent point on your side, and I acknowledge it. I'm not sure it's true, but stipulate for argument's sake, arguendo, that it is true. The Israelis made a mistake. They're imperfect, but that doesn't mean that they're equivalent to the Hamas. Yes, they made a mistake, if what you're saying is true, and I'm not historian enough to know if it is true, but it's been brooded about and it's been argued, and let's accept it, arguendo. Sure. The Israelis are imperfect. No one can deny that. By the way, Alan Fruderman and I have attacked Israel on many occasions. For example, they're too socialist. Likud is a lot less socialist than the previous government, but they're still too socialist. And I would say that they're not harsh enough on Hamas. They don't bomb enough. They use too many. I think it's over 500 Israeli soldiers have now died. Partially in an attempt to save the lives of civilians in Hamas. So I'm not a supporter of Israel, a holus bolus. I am also a critic of Israel, and Israel is too soft on Hamas. They should have bombed more, and they should have been a lot tougher on them in the past. And even the Iron Dome, I'm very ambivalent about the Iron Dome. What is the Iron Dome? The Iron Dome is a way when the Hamas sends off rockets, the Iron Dome hits them while they're in the air, and it renders them impotent.
Right.
Who could be against that, because it saves Israeli lives? On the other hand, if there were no Iron Dome, they never would have allowed those rockets to be continually shipped over to Israel. They would have been much firmer on them. And also, I'm against Israel because they're too beholden to the U.S.
Right.
They didn't go into Rafah. They should have gone into Rafah way before they did. But Biden, a fair weather friend of Israel, kept saying, "Well, if you do, we're going to kick your butt." And then there's the 56 war, when Israel was occupying the Sinai Peninsula at the end of the war, and they should have kept it. But Eisenhower made him give it up. And here, again, I'm a critic of Israel. Israel should not have adhered to what Eisenhower ordered. They should have kept that place, the Sinai Peninsula. Because, look, when country A attacks country B, and then country A loses, and it loses some territory, country B should keep that territory. Take the Golan Heights. What's the Golan Heights? The Golan Heights used to be part of, I think it was Lebanon. It's right on the northern border of Israel. And it was a little higher, a little mountain or a molehill, and they were shooting rockets down. And at the end of the war, Israel occupied the Golan Heights, and also Gaza, and also Samaria and Judea, sometimes called the West Bank. And they should keep it. And happily, Israel did keep it. Well, they gave back Gaza, but they kept the Golan Heights. They should keep the Golan Heights, because when the enemy attacks you and they lose territory, the victim should keep it. And happily, Israel did that there, but they didn't do it in the Sinai Peninsula. So I am a critic of Israel, mainly because they're too soft on their enemies.
Right. Sound like an objectivist a little, but uh-oh.
No. An objectivist, if you disagree with me, you're evil. And I don't think you're evil, even though you disagree.
That's worse than anything Hans Happe said. So
that was nasty, but I'm glad you were just kidding.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's bad that that they didn't even agree to respond. But yeah, it's their loss that they kicked you out. But yeah, so you're not going to the Mises, I guess.
Oh no! They just kicked me out as a senior fellow, but I think they've invited me to speak at the summit, supporters summit in October. And I wrote to Tom DiLorenzo and saying, well, am I still invited? And he never replied back, so I don't know if I'm still invited. But if I'm invited, I will go.
I wouldn't go.
It's because they mistreated me on this. I'm fighting in favor of the Mises Institute. I want to save the Mises Institute against itself, because the Mises Institute people are misbehaving. Lou Rockwell, on his LouRockwell.com, every day, not every week, but every day, maybe every other day, he's got some anti-Israel thing. Yeah. Never anything from the opposite side. I've asked them, will you publish my response to Hans? No. Will you publish my response to Tom DiLorenzo? No. Will you publish my response to McMakin? No. That's no way to run a railroad. And I'm trying to save the Mises Institute from this misbehavior on the part of the Mises Institute. So if I'm invited, I will attend. If I'm not invited, I can't. I don't believe in trespassing. But I hope they continue to invite me. And if they invite me under the condition that I don't speak about Israel, I won't speak about Israel. And that has happened in the past. I was invited previously on the ground that I don't speak about Israel, and I didn't speak about Israel.
Wow.
I still regard myself as a member of the Mises Institute. I still donate money to them. And also, by the way, Ron Paul, the Ron Paul Institute has also kicked me out of the advisory board, I think it was.
Yeah.
I just got a letter from Daniel, one of the chief officers, and I wrote him asking for a reply, and it's been almost a week, and he hasn't replied. They're good at not replying, which is problematic.
Cowards. You're very different than me. If I was treated this way, I would just say fuck you and not attend. But I don't know, because I'm like, if you're going to treat me bad, I don't know what the hell with you. That's sort of.
I'm a wimp.
You can judge it, but maybe. But yeah, I wouldn't donate to them. I would not attend. And
I still think that the Ron Paul and the Mises Institute, the Ron Paul Institute, do great work on everything except Israel.
And you quoted Murray a bunch, but Murray's position on Israel very different than yours.
That's for sure. For sure. Look, I promised you an hour. We're just about at an hour. So
okay.
Let me thank you. I must have been on your show a dozen times, maybe, or 10 times, and it's always a pleasure.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Look forward to the next time.
Yep. All right. When people kick you out, let me know. I'm just teasing. All right. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Take it easy.
Bye now.
Bye.